Hey guys, welcome back to Sun Crypto. It is April 27th, 2023. In today's content now, we'll talk about BTC on the macro level once again and what type of price action we could be expecting over the next like a few months. So we will take a look at it in terms of wave analysis. We'll talk about the WXYXZ correction on the macro level and all that good stuff, right? So when we take a look at BTC, as we've been saying over the last few months, right, the wave, we first had, that was like back in 2018, all the way up to 2021, and we counted it as a 5-wave structure to the upside, right? So if we take a look at it, the first move from like a 3100 range back in December 2018 was our bottom of the previous bear market. So we had our wave 1 up to like a 14k under the move to the downside. That was our wave 2 down to like a 45k, and our wave 3 all the way up to a 63. But since like we're using the line graph, Leroy, the top was like around like a 60k give or take, right? And our wave 4 right here and wave 5 to the upside, right? So after we finish off the wave 5, what we said was like we could get any type of a correction, okay? But the move we're going to be looking for to the downside, we don't know if it is going to be a 5-way structure in numbers or a 5-way structure in letters, okay? What is the difference? I'm just going to go back really quickly to explain it to you guys if you haven't watched one of our previous updates, right? Regarding the difference between a WXYXZ correction and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 correction. All right, so this is how it works. Okay, so whenever you get a 5-wave impulsive move to the upside, right? So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You tend to get some sort of like a corrections, right? All right, so sometimes the correction can be very choppy, but let's just say you get a 5-way structure to the downside, right? Since you counted a 5-wave move to the upside, right, it is feasible, right, to not count another 5-way structure to the downside. You can still count another 5-way structure to the downside, but it'll be too complicated for this for this video. So I'm just gonna say, okay, it is a 5-way structure to the downside, but since it is a correction, you don't want to count it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't want to use numbers, right? You want to use basically letters. So you want to say W, X, Y, X, and Z. Okay, so and the wave could be ended at any price level. You could be looking for 50% to 0.618, 0.786 to 0.888, but the most important is like you want to look for a divergence between your wave Y, right, your wave Y and your wave Z, okay, to say, hey, we're done with our correction. Because most of the time, whenever you get a, not most of the time, but I would say like 99% of the time, if you get a 5-way structure, you got to be looking for what, a divergence. And most of the time, okay, you're going to get a divergence. For instance, when you take a look at BTC, a quick example, okay, at the top right here between your wave 3 and wave 5, what you had was a nice bearish divergence, right? Okay, and right here we're counting another 5 wave to the downside, 5 corrective waves, WXYXZ correction. What do we have? And another basically bullish divergence, right? So you can see right here, right, you got your bearish divergence between your wave 3 and wave 5, and right here, right there, right, you got your wave, wave Y and wave Z, right, from forming a bullish divergence, while price action is looking bearish, right? So hopefully it makes sense. So that's the difference between counting these waves in numbers, or counting these waves in letters, right? So now let's take a look at BTC in terms of price action, right? We just discussed the divergence we had right here back in November 2021, and we just talked about back in January, yes, February, January, and all that good stuff, we talk about like the divergence we had between 20k down to like a 16k. Price action was making lower lows right there, right? And our indicator was still pushing to the upside. Even if you take a look at it in terms of like RSI, you can see like we did have a nice bullish divergence, right? Yes, we weren't 100% sure how deep the divergence was going to be, because sometimes you can get a divergence, right? But it could be very sharp. Like let's say if the wedge pattern was something like that, yes, you could have still got BTC coming down to like a 14k, right? That's why you basically need to pay attention to your weekly 21 EMA, your 3D 21 EMA, your 3D MACD. If price action breaks out above the weekly 21 EMA after a bullish divergence, especially after a 5-way structure, you got to be like, okay, the trend right here is likely to be over, and we could be looking for another move to the upside. And we talked about it back in December, guys. So if you've been following our channel long enough, back in November, first week of November, second week of November, third week of November, we said, okay guys, we're building a nice bullish divergence after a 5-wave structure to the downside, right? So now what are we looking for right now to the upside, right? So if you take a look at it, we're pushing to the upside, and we broke out above our 25k 24k resistance, and this level right here was our August rejection area. So if you recall back in August, what we said was clear, guys. At the 3D 21 EMA, right, we're going to get rejected and possibly going to be moving down to 18,000, and that's exactly what what we got right here. So we pushed back down to 18,000 and made a lower low right there, right? So if we go back to the line graph, you can see a clean wedge pattern. And if we take a look at our moving averages, we broke out above the weekly 21, just about like a 20k. We said, okay, everything is looking pretty good right now. So bulls most likely going to be controlling the trend right all the way up to the monthly 21. Okay, so if we take a look at it now on the monthly 21 EMA, price action on the line graph, we're still above the monthly 21. We haven't yet gotten a clear rejection off of the 21 EMA or above the 21 EMA, right? So price action is still looking pretty good. If we get a monthly close, another monthly close above 27.5, 27.3, that'll be bullish, right, going into May. Even though we could say like, hey, sell in May and just go for a vacation till basically September, October, and come back down and come back check out the market and basically be buying at lower prices and all that good stuff, right? But as of now, price action, it is still above the monthly 21 EMA after a 5-way structure to the downside. A 100% move right here, right, from the lows, just about like 15.5, right, up to 31, okay, 31,000, just about like 100% Leroy, right? So even though we above the monthly 21 EMA, right, and price action, it is slightly struggling. We haven't yet hit the 0.618 Fibonacci all the way up to like a 39 to a 41k, give or take, right? The 50% pullback going to be somewhere around like a 32k. So 32k is still going to be a strong resistance going into May. We'll see if bear is going to be strong enough to reject the price around like a 32. But if we close above 29 on the monthly basis, if we take a look at it on the regular candles, right, if we close above 29.5, 29k, that'll be extremely bullish, right? That'll be extremely bullish, even though we just got a massive volatility over the last 24-48 hours. Bulls are still managing to stay positive, buying the dips, try to close the monthly above the monthly 21 EMA. However, if bears, okay, strike hard before end of the month and close the price below 27.5, that would be pretty bearish, right, going into May. So it is something that we just have to keep in mind over the next like a 24 hours to 48 hours, okay, closing the monthly trying to close the monthly 21 EMA and all that good stuff, right? So as of now, it is 50-50. You can say like if bear is going to control the anti-trend, going into May, or if bulls going to control the entire trend going into May, because we only got like 72 hours to close the monthly. So it kind of reminds me of what happened back in June, right? June 2019, right here, when we were looking to close the monthly time frame. The monthly closed nicely, right there, but the weekly was pretty bearish, right? And we were going live back then. Some of you guys were still following me back in June 2019, and you remember we went live and we said if we close the monthly time frame, right, just like that, close the monthly below like a 10.9, that'll be extremely bearish. And you know, we were live watching the monthly time frame closing. Even though it pushed back up to like a 13,000, we knew that was the top right here. Okay, so now we will see on the weekly time frame. If we take a look at it on the weekly, we did have a nice bearish engulfing candle, engulfed like nearly 2 weeks of bullishness, dump back down to a 27.2, 27.3, give or take, consolidated right here. And I was like, guys, do not fall for a bearish weekly candle, right, in a strong bullish uptrend. What does it mean? If you take a look at it right here, back in 2019, we did have a similar price action around like a 7K. I remember exactly the first week of June 2019. I was like, okay, BTC is extremely bullish and we're most likely going to hit 14K. What happened right here? We did have a weekly engulfing candle, right? The first week of the month, right? The first week of June, we basically dropped somewhere around like a 8,700, right, down to like a 7,500 range. Okay, consolidated right here before basically pumping another nearly 80%, 90%, and all that good stuff, right? Almost 100%, right? So I'm not saying we will be pumping 100% going into May, but it is something we got to keep in mind, because if we take a look at it on the weekly basis in terms of indicators, right, the indicator, it is still positive. The weekly MACD right here, it is still very, very bullish. Okay, so it doesn't mean like BTC will be pumping straight up. As I just said, we got to close the monthly above 29K to get a positive feedback going into May. However, if we close the monthly once again below like a 27.5, 27.3, it could be critical over the next like a few weeks, okay, going into May, because bears could be selling and walking away and waiting for October and September and all that good stuff, right? September, October, November, right? During that time frame to be buying back the dips and all that good stuff, right? So weekly MACD is still positive, right? So no sign of reversal. You know, the weekly MACD, even though we do not talk about the weekly MACD a lot, it is a very, very you know, useful tool or useful time frame, right? To be paying attention to, okay, in terms of like a macro reversal. I'm not talking about like the 15-second charts, right? Like the pumping and dumping, like what happened over the last 24 hours, you know, dump 3,000 point, pump back up 3,000 point. We're talking about like a complete reversal, 3 to 6 months, right? If you basically trading BTC, you know, on a higher time frame, like you know, 1 month time frame, 3 month time frame, and all that good stuff, right? So you take a look at what happened back in April 2021, right here, after we crossed negative, right? You can see like right here we dump right back down to the 30Ks, right? Cross back positive, back in August 2021. We pump all the way up to 79K Leroy, 69K right here, and cross back negative right here. You can see what happened. Okay, that's when we said, okay guys, the weekly time frame is negative. We got a bearish divergence after our 5-wave structure moved to the upside. Bearish divergence between wave 3 and wave 5. Price action below our 3D 21 EMA. Price action below our weekly 21 EMA. 9 out of 10, it is a downtrend. Okay, we weren't sure if it is going to be a bear market, but we were sure, like, hey, we were very sure BTC was, you know, in a downtrend, not in a bear market. We confirmed the bear market right here, right around like a 40K. We said we're going to dump all the way down to a, you know, 20K area, because whenever we close a candle below our monthly 21 EMA, right, we tend to dump 50%. So we already knew that regardless of what Elliott wave was showing us. Okay, we knew BTC dropping below its monthly 21 EMA, it tends to dump 50%. Okay, so now you take a look at it right here, back in the summer, even before the summer, right there back in April, okay, late April, we crossed negative. What happened? We dumped from like a 40k all the way down to like a 17k. So we crossed positive once again back in August, right? However, since like BTC was printing a divergence, right, was looking to print a divergence between wave Y and wave Z, right, you got to be pulling back down. So you got to understand that, right? Just because your weekly MACD is positive, right, doesn't mean like price action will be pumping to the upside. So that's why it is so important to understand Elliott wave, because just because you understand like how to count these waves, right, doesn't mean like you understand how the waves going to be structured. Okay, so always keep that in mind. Just because you got a bullish, a bullish crossover on your MACD, it doesn't mean you're going straight up. And I remember right here, Leroy was extremely bullish around like a 24-25k, and we were bearish at around the 3D 21 EMA, right? We said, okay, we're going back down to the lows, right? Possibly printing a flat correction or a double bottom, regardless, right, what we're going to get. But we were looking for a double bottom around like a 17.5 to a 18k area and all that good stuff, right? So weekly MACD positive right here. So we haven't seen yet a negative weekly MACD, right? So in order to go bearish, completely bearish for a for a 3 to 6 month of a downtrend, we got to get a weekly negative MACD. And once again, even if we get a weekly negative MACD, it doesn't necessarily means like, hey, we're going to dump straight down, because the waves, right, let's say if BTC pumps all the way up to a 0.618, right, and the weekly MACD later on, after we move sideways, the weekly MACD crosses negative, right, it doesn't mean like BTC will drop right away. Okay, it can still print like, let's say, a triangular formation, something like that, just to waste some time around 32 to 39k, give or take, to print something like a descending triangular formation, right? Even though, okay, the second half of 2023 could be a bearish, it could be bearish in the second half of 2023. It doesn't mean the move will be volatile and be dumping straight down to like a 3k 1k like most bears are calling and all that good stuff, right? So something to keep in mind, right? Pay attention to the weekly time frame. However, it is a directional trend. It is not something like you're looking for a straight move to the downside, right? It could take time to basically dump to lower prices and find supports and all that good stuff. But once we get a negative momentum on our weekly basis, on our 3D basis, on our 5D basis, we'll start to basically look for lower prices and all that good stuff, right? So hopefully it makes sense, right? And another topic I just wanted to include really quickly is like, hey, our move we're getting right now to the upside in terms of wave analysis, right? It could be our wave 1 of our macro bull market, right? So it means even if we go back up to like, let's say for whatever reason, right, BTC hits like a 40k 39k give or take, right, and we get our correction, another WXY correction, another 5-way structure, right? And Leroy, I'm not saying it will be 20k 19k and all that good stuff. I'm just saying like another 5-way move, right, for just for for the sake of simplicity, right? This move right here could be our wave 1, this could be our wave 2, and in 2024 2025 we could be looking for our wave 4 and 5, right? So what does it mean? It simply means the bottom for BTC could be in, regardless of how deep we correct. As long as we do not close below 15.5, right, we could use our current move, right, as our wave 1 of the macro bull market, right, to the upside. So it could be very choppy, the next correction phase. We don't know if BTC will be retesting, 15k, 18k, 20k, depending on the volatility. We will basically just be paying attention to the to the MACD. As I just said, at some point, if we cross negative on our MACD, we will need to cross positive again and possibly get another bullish divergence. So we got a long way to go, depending on the depending on the volatility. Okay, if we do not get a bullish divergence on our MACD, we probably going to get one on our 3D. Okay, so because we don't have to get a bullish divergence on our MACD, on our weekly MACD, right? If the volatility is pretty fast, we might not get one. Okay, however, if the volatility slows down, right, and we tend to basically let's say we move sideways for like a 4 to 6 month, right? Not sideways, but dump for like a 4 to 6 month. We probably going to get a bullish divergence on our 3D, right? But on the weekly, it might not be guaranteed, right? So we will just see what the market will print. So we cannot basically just say, hey, the market will pump all the way up to 40k, drop back down to like a 20k, because we just don't know. Because we have to wait for these waves, right, to be completed. Just like what happened right here, we did not know exactly where the bottom going to be at. But what we said was like, once we get our bullishness on our weekly basis, right, price action above the 3D 21, above the weekly 21, we're going to be shooting for our monthly 21 EMA. Okay, we said it in our premium back in the second half of 2022, when the price action was around like a 18k, 15k. We said we don't know, if 18k going to be the bottom, right? But we will see once we get back above our 3D 21, weekly 21 with a bullish divergence. We're going to be shooting for a move all the way up to the monthly 21 EMA, just about like a 28k to 30k. All right, and back then, remember guys, price action was around like a 16k to 18k range, and we were saying we're going to hit our monthly 21 EMA in Q1 or Q2 2023. We already got that, right? So we just have to be very, very patient over the next like a 6 to 9 month, right, going into the first quarter of 2023, because I think like the entire structure right here could take like a 6 to 9 month just to push back up to like 40k if we're strong enough, and to dump back down to find our next support, or our next fib, whatever. We just want to make higher lows. That's all we want to make. Doesn't matter if the higher low going to be by 1 point. We just want to make another higher low. Okay, it could be 50%, 0.618, 0.888, or even like 100% retracement. We just don't want to break below 15.5, right? And all that good stuff, right? Hopefully it makes sense, right? So I'm just gonna cut it short. It is almost 23 minutes, guys. Wow. All right, guys, so I'm just gonna cut it short. So let me know what you think down below the comment section. If you think like BTC will hit 40k this summer, or if you think like 31, 32 going to be the top, and we're going to dump down to like a 3k, 1k, like the 10k bear, and then are waiting for, and all that good stuff, right? All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching.